Hello and welcome back to the What the Falk Sunderland Preview Podcast. A solid, if unspectacular, win at Stoke City last weekend has Sunderland in the heady heights of fifth. It's quite easy, this championship block, isn't it? Well, to answer that question will most likely come this weekend as we pit off against a side whose recent history has been as much in the Premier League as it has been the Championship, Norwich City. And to help give us the lowdown on the Canaries is none other than popular co-host of Talk Norwich City, Mr. Chris Reeve. Chris, how are you, mate? You okay?
What an introduction. I might speak to you guys more often. I quite like the fact that you're back in the Championship now. What a lovely intro. Thank you.
Well, it feels nice to be back here, especially when we're winning games. But
I was just gonna say thank you. And I genuinely mean that point about it's just nice to be speaking to Sunderland again, because it's mad that you've been down in League One. And genuinely, I have got so much respect for Sunderland. I know that Sunderland fans will know of Michael Bowers, I'm sure, who I'm great friends with, and I've really enjoyed chatting to him. And there's lots in common between Sunderland and Norwich, I think. Of course, Sunderland are a much bigger club for sure, but the plights have been similar. Of course, the Friendship Trophy is in place, the Milk Cup final. There's been some real good games over the years, and so I'm genuinely delighted that Sunderland are back in the Championship because, they should be a Premier League club, of course, but they certainly shouldn't be in League One. And I wanted to say thank you for keeping Ipswich down in League One for a little bit longer.
You're welcome. We didn't mind doing that in any way. I think it might be there for a while. Hopefully I won't have to get them on for a preview show anytime soon because that might get brought up, but nonetheless. Fair chunk to get through, but we'll start straight from the top. Obviously, we're chatting prior to the EFL game against Bournemouth tonight for people listening. So your most recent game, 2-0 win against Millwall. Josh Sargent scored a Friday night double to grab all 3 points. How was the performance?
Well, look, it's a very encouraging one. Very encouraging. Obviously, we've struggled at the back, so that's been nice. Josh Sargent has struggled, and he scored an absolute worldie of a goal, which I can't believe wasn't in the old FIFA Puskas Award, actually in the Premier League. But except from that, he really hasn't made his mark. And at Norwich City, considering we haven't got a billion, well, even millionaire owner, it's completely self-funded, right? It's really tough. So when Norwich recruit players above 6 million, they need to work straight away. They have to work because we can't afford to spend that amount of money and then for it to not work because of our structure and the way that we work in terms of signing a player and selling on. Anyway, Josh Sargent is a very, very good case study of that. And so it's so encouraging to see him having scored the goals that he has in the games that he has this season. It's really encouraging to see Dean Smith now almost settle into actually what could be a new style of play. It's a bit weird for Norwich because we're coming to terms with not playing Teemu Pukki, which is something that we have never, ever considered and is really weird to have a two-time title-winning goal scorer on the bench. And I know that he's picked up an injury, but I don't know how he will break into the team again, which is great for Norwich that Josh Sargent's done what he's done, considering what the player that he has been for us so far. So there are green shoots in what has been a poor start for Norwich City. Don't get me wrong. Yes, we've picked up a couple of results now, which we're very happy with, but performance-wise, it still can improve. As I said, that there's two-time title-winning players in that team, not just Teemu Pukki, but the likes of Tim Krul and El Hernandez. The list goes on. Todd Cantwell. So there are players there that can make a huge impact, that can provide the experience that we need. But it's that mentality point that I'm still questioning in my head, because we were embarrassed in the Premier League, not just last season, but the last time we were there too. And so we've only really, as a supporter base, we've only really felt the low of the yo-yo and not the high, because of course, when we won the title last time under Falk, we were all at home. It's a bit of a wacky time for Norwich. The jury's still out on a lot of things. The fan feeling around Dean Smith it feels to me like it's on a knife edge. I really hope that it will be the end of that, because I really want to be positive about them again. And this game against Sunderland at the weekend will either cement the fact that we've turned the corner, or it will be a case of, I think it might have been paper over cracks a little bit, and we needed to recruit better and sell players, etc., etc. So That's I guess the state of the Canary Nation, if you will.
It's funny because obviously when you're going into League One, you do look at teams and you look at your fixtures you get. And I think it got to we looked at Sheffield United, who were played last week, and you look at Norwich and you go, well, they're the two big games. They're the two games where you go, as long as you're putting a good performance. And then you see Norwich lose sort of 2 of the first 3, draw the other one against Wigan, who also got promoted. But you have won the last 2. Obviously, we don't know what the score tonight's going to be against Bournemouth, but it is in the Cup. What is the feeling at the moment? Because technically it's 2 wins in 5, which doesn't sound like promotion form, but the Championship, you can lose your first 5 and still win the league. We've done it. You've probably done it. So what's the feeling? Is it don't panic too soon?
I think now it is. But there's still a section of support, as there is with every club. There's still a section of supporters with their pitchforks ready to jump on anything that goes wrong, right? And you could even argue I've potentially been in that camp at points already this season, because it was unacceptable to start the season how we have. And that's not, I just genuinely don't believe that it is arrogance or me with my yellow and green glasses on. That group of players, 2-time title winners, as I say over again, they shouldn't have started the campaign how they have, not just in terms of results, but performances as well. And, there's lots of people that cite XG and all that stuff. And I must admit, I'm maybe a bit of an old-fashioned football fan on that note. I don't care how, just bloody win. Yeah, just win. Yeah, shithouse it if you need to. Just win. Make sure you win. And we haven't. So, yeah, I think the fan feeling is that now people are agreeing that there's green shoots. I think people are agreeing that we're starting to see some really positive performances. People are starting to get excited about the new signings because we're now able to play them. People are, as I say, we've already mentioned it, people are excited that Josh Sargent has turned a corner, which is great because he's been a player that, and I'll happily admit it, on TalkNorwichCity, we've had to slate him because he's been that bad. So, yeah, I think overall the tide's turning. But as I say, and to repeat myself again, forgive me, this game against Sunderland will tell the tale. This game against Bournemouth that we've got, of course, it's a game that we'll want to win. It'll be really interesting to see whether Dean Smith makes wholesale changes to that starting 11 or not, or whether he'll just want to get that winning feeling continuing on, and that train then rocks up to the Stadium of Light, and all of a sudden it's there's so much more momentum. But yeah, I think overall the fan feeling I would still describe as fragile, albeit more optimistic than it has been.
Going back, obviously, to last season, I did sort of notice, understandably, Dean Smith is a bit 50-50. You see that you've only got to go in the forums and you'll see a mix. You can kind of get on every forum, to be fair, but especially a place like Norwich where you expect promotion and the season's started not perfectly. But I've got to be honest, last year when you parted company with Daniel Farker, I was kind of quite surprised, if I'm honest, because I remember at the time, obviously, results weren't great. I don't think you had the team that could cope in the Premier League. It's a long story short. We're talking quite a while ago now in terms of football, or feels like 5 years ago. Obviously, Dean Smith came in. He's not had probably the start he would have wanted, or anyone at Norwich would have wanted, but he's also not had the most horrendous start. Looking back in hindsight, was getting rid of Falk the right idea?
No, I actually think I might still be slightly in the minority on this. For me, it was the right decision to finish things with Daniel Farker. And I get a lot of slate for this actually, because I was quite firm on it at the time. But I believe that all good things have got to come to an end. I think that in football, it's so important to continue to innovate, to improve, to optimize, and it just felt like it went stale, and it got to the point where, and I've likened last season to starting a car. All right, so yes, we've already turned up to the Premier League in a Peugeot 206. All right, those players realistically weren't going to stay up. Okay, and then what happened is Daniel Farker was botching it with lots of different styles of and lineups, and we had a horrific start to the campaign. So I'm so grateful, and I will always respect Daniel Farker for what he has done for our football club, but it was definitely the right time to change. And I do actually really feel for Dean Smith, because I think he took over a sinking ship. I think the fan mood was so low that he was fighting a losing battle. And again, Dean Smith tried to kickstart this car. He's tried all sorts to get it going, but he just couldn't get it going. And So that's why I'm so happy to see it to start to go well now, because he's a very experienced manager. He's a manager with proven promotion credentials. And personally, I'm happy with him in charge, and I think it was the right time. The thing that fans struggle with is the style of play, because under Daniel Falk, lots of opposition fans will know we called it Falk ball, right? And it was this beautiful, free-flowing, attacking, possession-based football in the Championship, but in the Premier League, it was woeful. It didn't work. So I do now believe that we've got a manager that is happy to adapt his team and his style based upon the oppositions that we play and injuries, etc., etc. So, I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. And I think you're right in what you're saying from the outside looking in. No offense to any Norwich fans listening, but I think when Dean Smith went in, it went, well, if he can get a bit of pride restored, that's kind of how you saw it. He was on a hiding to nothing. One manager I think that you're a really big fan of, I've actually heard you speak about him before, and I'm a really big fan of him as well. I actually really love him. He's the nicest bald man I've ever seen in my life. Alex Neil. While we're on the subject of managers, I think any Sunderland fan listening to this will know exactly what he's done for our club and the start of this season, and how much he's basically revitalised the entire club that was languishing in League One and ready to kind of stay there, I think, before he came in. You've had experience of Alex Neil and the promotion under him. Are you surprised by his success at Sunderland, or is it not a surprise at all?
No, not at all. Not at all. And to say his name again, Michael Bowers, a well-known Sunderland fan, does various content bits and bobs. I said to him straight away, mate, that's your ticket to promotion. That is your first-class ticket to promotion, getting Alex Neil. A genius move. So complete kudos to the Sunderland board for making that decision. And actually, it actually complements Sunderland massively, right? Because Alex Neil could have stayed in the Championship, mid-table team, ticked along, but he's clearly got ambition to work with a big club. He wants to feel that success again that you felt at Norwich. The exciting thing, of course, for Sunderland is that you've got, in my opinion, the ability to, this sounds a bit fluffy, forgive me, harvest more resource because of the size and structure of the club. And so I would be so excited, and I would be really happy as a Sunderland fan with Alex Neil. And I think if I reflect back over the years, I'll start with the good points. When he first took over Norwich, breath of fresh air. And the story is that we went to Bournemouth away from home, and he wasn't meant to impact that game, but he was in the stands. And at half time, he came down and he actually did a team talk at half time. And you can imagine what that team talk was like. We went on to win the game. Alex Neil then takes over. We muscle our way into the playoffs. It was then an iconic moment for Norwich City because, of course, we comfortably beat the Ipswich Town boys in the semi-final. I was almost rude. I tried not to be. Well done, Chris. So we beat Ipswich semi-final, and then we go to Middlesbrough, who previously beat us 4-0 at there. They wiped the floor with us. And Alex Neil's the way that Alex Neil set us up for that Wembley win, and I know the Sunderland fans can actually really see the same thing here. It's like it's just a breath of fresh air. He's a motivator. He's not afraid to just go for it. Like, he's not about this sit back, park the bus bollocks. Like, he just grabs teams by the balls and goes, right, let's have some. You know, if you score one, we'll score two more. And that's the style of football that we, as football fans, that's what we want to go to the stadiums to enjoy, right? And so I really, really enjoyed that. I also really enjoyed, despite the end result, I actually enjoyed a lot of the games under Alex Neil in the Premier League. There were, we had a great group of players then as well. I do think at the time, it was unfortunate for Alex that he didn't have the experience that he had now. I think if he had the experience that he had now, then obviously he would have stayed longer. He was just a little bit too inexperienced at that point, and we outgrew him as a club, which is, I think, a fair thing to say. But I think now he's really in the ascendancy, and obviously he was very young at Norwich. We literally brought him into management as he was a player manager beforehand. So yeah, and I just really hope that Sunderland fans respect him and look after him, because my observations are Sunderland are one of those clubs, because of the size and the expectation, again, where they've chopped and changed managers way too regularly, but maybe that's because they've been so poor. But I now really hope that Sunderland stick with Alex. I really hope that you give him the resource to do well, rather than letting him botch it. I hope you invest in January and you go for it. Like, I think Sunderland have a distinct, unique advantage this season, and that's the unpredictability of the team, because you're fresh back into the league again. The atmosphere at the Stadium of Light, so many fans haven't experienced that, and opposition players haven't experienced that in a while. That's an advantage. And also a huge advantage is Alex Neil, his experience. You've already seen it, and the stats are out there. You guys have won more away games than anyone else. That's the Alex Neil factor. No fear football. And you saw what he did at Preston. By the way, Alex Neil needs to send me an invoice here. You saw what Alex Neil did at Preston North End with bugger all budget, right? He was flirting with those playoff places all the time. And I don't think it's too outlet. And I know that Sunderland fans are trying to keep expectations down and say, we'll just survive. It'll be fine. I think Sunderland fans should get excited. I think I think you've got this season an advantage to get into those playoffs. And as a Norwich fan, because we did it. We went from League One. Of course, we bounced back straight away. So maybe it's a little bit different. But we went down to League One, up to the Championship, up to the Premier League straight away. And I genuinely think that Sunderland could find themselves flirting with the playoffs. I really, really do, because of Alex Neil. So basically, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge, huge fan.
Yeah, me too. I kind of think the same as you. I just don't want to say. Yes. I'm terrified. Now, remember that Norwich season, actually, because I used to live with a Norwich fan. Nothing to do with Norwich, just like the strip when he was a kid. And I lived in the same house as him the season you got promoted. And he remembers it. I remember it very, very well, because you got promoted, then beat us 2-1, and my entire bedroom was decorated in yellow and green, which wasn't necessarily the best, but he's a nice guy, bless him. One thing I've probably not touched on too much, but I actually think it's quite interesting. Barley Mumba, obviously he's out on loan at Plymouth at the moment. He was out on loan at Peterborough last year. When he was sold to Norwich, at the time, it was kind of a fire sale of our young talent from Donald and Methven, and that's my thoughts, in my opinion anyway. It did irk a lot of Sunderland fans, despite the fact he wasn't in the team. It was like, well, this is a little bit too low. Could he be more? Norwich fans seemed to love him when he first came in. He's not really kicked on. What's going to happen to him?
Good question. Not an easy answer, but the mood amongst the Yellow Army is that we still love Bally. We still believe in Bally. We think that he could have a bright future. We've seen, by the way, the start he's had. We've seen what he's been doing at Plymouth. He's been absolutely tearing it up. Like, the guy has got a bright future. I'm a big, big fan. I've been impressed with what I've seen from Ballymumba, certainly in the cup games and the limited time that he's had on the pitch in league games for Norwich City as well. I do think he's got a good future. I still think it's a little bit early to come out with a statement like, why is he not kicked on? Just because I just think he's still so young, and you have to factor in what Bally has had in front of him at Norwich City. And for him to go to Sunderland with love and respect in League One, and then all of a sudden we threw him in against Man City away, for God's sake. Like, that's basically an impossible ask. So I'm excited for Bally. I think he'll be a top player for us next season. And I'm really happy to see him doing well at Plymouth. And I understand why Sunderland fans feel the way they feel, but that is just what it is when you're in League One. And maybe to sort of railroad this a little bit, and to maybe like give you an example, is Patrick Roberts, right? Perhaps what you feel about Bally, I sort of feel about Patrick Roberts, right? We signed him, exciting talent, didn't kick on at Norwich City at all, and now he's at Sunderland. I know he's not playing for you guys at the moment, but he's now back in the ascendancy again. So, yeah, I think Sunderland fans should probably hold their hands up and say that was just where we were at the time, and we can't do anything about it. And to be fair, it was still a bit of a pot shot, wasn't it? Like, Bally had proven absolutely diddly squat at that point, and so yeah, I'm a big fan though. I really think he's a top player, and I think he'll have a very bright future.
Interesting that he went in as like a right back, because obviously he started in midfield, and then I think Falk has seen him as a right back. But to be fair, that's kind of where he's probably impressed the most. And obviously he's doing really well at Plymouth at the moment as well. In terms of recognisable faces, there's, unfortunately for us, two that used to play for our neighbours. One called Tim, the other called Isaac. So I'll ignore them. The more recognisable faces for me are the likes of Grant Hanley. Obviously, I live in Scotland. Todd Cantwell's was a great player a couple of years ago when he won the Premier League. He's been touted to moves. He's still there. Max Aarons, and obviously you mentioned Pukki before, he's not in the team. But in terms of Sunderland fans watching Norwich, they're the names we'll notice. But who are the players we should actually be worried about going into the given Saturday? Who's in form at the moment?
Well, there's two players. It's a really easy answer, and it's based off of the last couple of wins. First of all, it does shock me to say it because I'm still getting used to it. Josh Sargent, he's a player that really wants to stretch the back line. He's physical. He's strong in the air. He's full of confidence at the moment. He's able to score headers that, in my opinion, are really like, it's not like a basic thing. Like his runs and his body shape, just everything. Like, I'm really impressed with Josh at the moment. So I think that will be a tough task for Sunderland. I think if you can stop Sargent, you'll definitely do well. But the main man for me, and I'm not afraid to say, is it's basically every single Norwich City fan's favourite player at the moment, Marcelino Nunes, a complete random buy from Chile. We've bought him in it kind of, and I'm trying to be careful on this, but it feels almost the same as Emi Buendia in the sense of it, it's a bit of a needle in the haystack. It's one of those buys that Norwich City make, and so many of them have failed. I get that, but it feels so good right now. So Marcelino Nunes is a player that twists, that turns, that can score free kicks. If you've got the time, go and watch his free kick against Hull. So don't give away free kicks against Norwich City on the edge of your box, because if you do, genuinely, it's the first time in years that I have felt so confident from free kicks. And that, I think, that's something in a team that I actually think it's quite hard to find a specialist kick taker now. And I think we found one in Marcelino Nunes. So those are the two key players. And of course, you mentioned all of those familiar faces already that I'm sure will put in a good performance. But the two players for me, Josh Sargent, Marcelino Nunes, if you can stop both of those boys playing, you've got a good chance of getting a result.
On the flip side, we've had a unexpectedly good start, maybe unexpected to us. I think other people thought we might start quite well. Either way, I'll take it. Normally when it comes to Saturday's game, you'd have Sky building it like David versus Goliath, newly promoted League One side, recently relegated Premier League outfit. I think, if I'm not blowing our own trumpet too much, truth be told, historically, we've never been as low as League One, and we've mainly been around, Norwich, those sort of sides, the sides that we're playing. So it's maybe not as David and Goliath as maybe it would have previously been. Obviously, you started well. You've said how important the game is for you to have an idea of where the season's going to go for you. I wouldn't say must win. It's probably too early, but it's important that you get a result out of it. Long story short, how do Norwich fans see the game against Sunderland at the Stadium Light on Saturday? Is it a case of a League One team we should win, or is it, oh God, this is quite a tough game?
I think the expectation is fairly balanced, actually. I think it's fairly under control at the moment, and that's because we had a pretty bad, well, actually, we had a shocking start, really. We've only just started to pick up again, so by no stretch of the imagination are Norwich City fans expecting us to turn up to the Stadium of Light and comfortably win. I don't think that exists. But what does exist now is we expect a performance, not just a result. We expect a performance now because of what we've seen. Some of that hinges on this cup game against Bournemouth that we've got. We want to be winning that, or at least, putting in a really positive performance. So yeah, I don't think we're coming into the Stadium of Light, this arrogant fan base that, expect us to blow you apart. I just don't think that happens. And Norwich fans know full well what an Alex Neil team's like. We know full well what a confident Alex Pritchard is like. So yeah, I don't think that exists. And I think it'll be a really entertaining game, and I'm really, really looking forward to it.
I completely forgot that Pritch played for Norwich. Completely went out of my head. There's my research. Horrendously bad. But it does bring me wonderfully on to the next question, the penultimate question. Which Sunderland players are Norwich fans most concerned about?
Oh, yeah, I think it'll be Pritchard. Genuinely, I think that's a very easy answer. I think, we saw the best of Pritchard, right? Huddersfield fans obviously don't like him and are frustrated with it. He thought the grass was going to be greener when he left Norwich. He then found out that, and a lot of players fall victim of this, they jump ship too early. He should have stayed at Norwich. But I also empathise with the fact that who would have thought that after spending £300,000 in the Premier League, would that team then bounce back straight away? So I do empathise a little bit with Pritchard in that respect. But I think he's the main man. I think he will be able to really stretch us. I think he will certainly worry our centre backs. But I think the key, the reason why they're worried about Pritchard is because at the moment we're playing a makeshift left back in Kenny McLean, who of course you will know. That's not good news. Kenny is a midfielder for us, always has been. We've had 3 players out injured in that position, and Kenny's covering at the moment. So that's why I think people will particularly fear Alex Pritchard over anyone else because of where he is on the pitch, and even if he swaps, wings as well, I think that's the player that Norwich fans will fear. Don't take it the wrong way, though. I don't think Norwich players will fear anyone else. I think they will feel that they can manage this game. I do. But I've already said it, if you can stop Marcelino Nunes dictating play, because we're a possession-based side still, as you've seen, I'm not a fan of XG, as I've made clear already, but, if you can stop us in terms of possession, you'll do well. But if you guys can retain possession and feed Alex Pritchard and feed it in front of him, I still think that Norwich have got a big mistake in them. And then I fear us going behind, because when Norwich go behind in games, I still don't believe our mentality is developed to the point where we know how to bounce back. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with Alex Pritchard.
Of course. Final question. I've got none right, which is just my form, really. I need to stop doing it because then people are going to realise I don't know what I'm speaking about, which is fair, I guess. I'm going to say 2-1 Sunderland. We need a home win. I fancy it, but I imagine you might disagree.
On our channel, TalkNorwichCity, we always say, what's our head saying? What's our heart saying, right? And I think that I think my head is saying 1-1. I think Sunderland will put up a really good fight at home against the team that, the Sunderland fans they'll be so up for this game. It's a bit, you will want, this will be a big marquee win if you can do it, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that means you'll start well. And I think that if you score first, as I've said already, I don't see us being able to equalise and go on to win the game. So I think my head's saying 1-1, but my heart is saying that we're talking about, potentially this free-flowing game, right? Because Norwich are keeping possession, and we're now developing a style of play, and Josh Sargent and Marcelino Nunes and all these creative players, potentially Todd Cantwell comes into play. But then I know full well that Alex Neil's not going to park the bus against Norwich City. But contradicting all of that stuff, I actually think my heart is saying this will be 0-0 for a lot of the game, and maybe Norwich will nick a win. But I'm not going to this confident. I'm going into this thinking a 1-1 draw wouldn't be a bad result, which might surprise Sunderland fans, but it's just due to that unknown factor of Sunderland, the start of the season, away from home. Again, I'm an old-fashioned football fan. Win your home games, see what you can nick away from home. And I think Sunderland is a place this season where you'll do well to get a result. Genuinely, I do. So that's my prediction for the game. But hopefully we'll absolutely batter you. But I don't think we will. But it's the friendship trophy after all. So perhaps we'll give you a win at the Stadium Light and you'll give us the win at Carrow Road. Perhaps that will be the scenario. Who knows? I
was trying to think who currently holds it. Is it yourselves who currently holds it?
No, I think it's you guys. I think the last result might be 3-1. Your guy, I'm sure the Sunderland fans will remind me. I think Sunderland won the last game, so you've got the friendship trophy.
Currently have it. For anyone wondering, Chris, obviously I'm going to let you go, but before I do, I think there'll be people who know obviously where to find Talk Norwich City and your stuff. Loads of really good interviews on it. Loads of great stuff, Norwich fan or not. But where can we find you if people want to?
That's so kind. Thank you. Yeah, well, absolutely. Probably the best platform is the old Twitter, the toxic football Twitter. And my handle is at Chris Reeve, at Talk Norwich City is the channel. Talk Norwich City on YouTube is where all of our interviews are. And we're going to be doing all sorts of fun content at the moment. So feel free to engage and get involved in the conversation. As I always say to people, if Norwich City win, you will hear from me at the weekend. But if you guys win, I won't respond to anyone.
That's fair play. I think I'm the same 9 times out of 10. Chris, I will let you go, but as always, thanks for coming on. And someone told me I've got to start saying like, subscribe and all that, but I'll just keep with my normal. If you want to subscribe, you can. If you don't, I don't care. It's fine. But Chris, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Cheers, guys.